The second game on Saturday squares off the Rams versus the Seahawks. Now, this is the definition of familiar foes. They've played each other a million times. They know exactly what each other does. And it's finally a game in the playoffs where the defense is going to have the final say on who wins this game. Now, for Seattle, this season started off with let Russ cook. And it has taken a hard turn from that as of the Arizona game 2. Seattle's trying to get the running game more involved, and the offense has really looked stagnant and slow in every game except for the Jets game and the end of the San Francisco game since then. And I don't know if it's the speed of the game picking up league-wide or if it's the beating that he took all season, but it does appear that Russell Wilson is starting to slow down just a little bit. And that truly doesn't bode well for the Seattle offense in this matchup. The first two games that you saw, Seattle versus the Rams, Seattle was able to put up 16 and 20 points. It looked like Russell was standing in the middle of a hornet's nest. And because he's slowing down a little bit, escaping that pocket with the Rams' impressive pass rush flying around him, it's been much tougher for him to make that magic moment happen where he gets away from a pressure that he shouldn't be able to avoid. This Rams defense is extremely talented, and on top of that, they know who Seattle is. That is a really tough spot for any quarterback, any offense to be in, and you've seen that with this matchup because the Rams have put Russell Wilson on the ground in 2 games 11 times. That's ridiculous. That leads me to believe that we're going to see a lot of 3 yards and a cloud of dust in this game. I would expect Seattle to try and establish the run game as much as they have all season here, just simply to try and slow down this pass rush because you can't allow Russell to get hit and sacked 5 to 6 times a game and expect good things to happen. Right in the 2 matchups, Seattle has 11 punts and turnovers. They've allowed 11 sacks. Kind of lining up for him that way. You get sacked, you either turn the ball over or you punt. And if you're a Seattle fan and you want that to stop, and I bet you do, they need to dust off an old portion of their playbook, and they need to move the pocket. They need to move the pocket with Russell. This offensive line needs to be protected from themselves, especially in this matchup. There needs to be more boot action. There needs to be more options for Russell to stretch out the defensive line so he doesn't get boxed into that hornet's nest because he hasn't found a way to get out of it in the same frequency as in the past. If Seattle's content with 16 to 20 points in this game, by all means, do what you've done. But if they don't start moving Russell and moving that pocket and altering the hit points for the defensive line, it's going to be the same as we've seen all this year. They need to involve their running backs. They need to move the pocket. They need to get the slip outs to the tight ends like Olsen, to Hollister. Just the simple little things that put the Rams off balance because if you don't, this Rams defense is just far too good. On the other side of the ball, there's a lot of talk about a quarterback's thumb and if he will be available or not. I don't necessarily see that as a big deciding factor. And that's not to say that I don't think Jared Goff is a better quarterback than Wolford. But there's something in this Seattle matchup that could make the difference between those two very, very minuscule. And this is with how Seattle has decided to handle the zone game boot action. Pretty much all you see on film with Seattle is that they're willing to box in the running back and rally to the quarterback. You can do this a number of different ways. You can keep your gap integrity on the run and then deal with the pass after that. Some teams, they will send their defensive end right at the quarterback and say, okay, that running back now has to find that backdoor cutback. And that's what I would do against the Rams, especially with Henderson or Akers. It doesn't look like Henderson will play, so it's Akers this week. Because I don't trust the vision of Akers and Henderson to make that dynamic cut, find the backdoor alley, and beat Wagner to it. But the Seattle Seahawks have decided to keep a unified front, keep downhill, and then pursue to Goff because they are not concerned at all with his running ability. And while this will be efficient for Goff, and Goff will complete a lot of short passes and get people through the cover 3 or running away from the man defense that Seattle will play against them, This changes 100% with Wolford. Because with Wolford, that run game threat is an issue. Now you're stretched wider. And this is a change that even though Wolford won't have the high-end completion percentage, the high-end efficiency, he looked adequate, but his run game aspect against specifically Seattle will open up that quarterback boot turning into a 5, 6, 7-yard run upfield. That will stretch their defense more and may open up some more cracks for the running backs to work on the front side. And if Seattle ends up realizing that this is a threat that they have to deal with, now that defensive end may go straight to Wolford, which will allow that cutback. I would like to see more Malcolm Brown in this game. I have liked Malcolm Brown better than Henderson and Akers all season. I make no qualms about that. And the reason for it is that while Akers and Henderson are more explosive if you give them a lane, they can take a lane and make a big splash play out of it and immediately get up into the safeties with their speed. The vision, being able to find soft spots in a defense, getting a little bit of gains, maximizing the yardage in a play instead of hitting the pile, is all things Malcolm Brown does. He's kind of a mutter. He's more gritty. He's going to get those little short yards that keep you ahead of the chains at a better rate than you'll see with Akers and Henderson. Akers and Henderson are more dangerous. They're more likely to make a big play. But if you're looking to stay on schedule, if you're looking for somebody who can find that dynamic cutback, that's actually better for Malcolm Brown. So while we haven't been told which quarterback will play for the Rams, I don't see a huge difference in the results. They'll just come through different means. With Goff throwing in practice, with Goff going through ball security drills, I would expect it to be Goff. I would expect him to try and tough it out. One hit could change that, and that may not be the worst thing for the Rams because known opponent, unknown twist could tip the game in their favor. While the Seattle defense knows the Rams, they are just simply not on the same level as the defense that the Rams bring to the table. Yes, Seattle's offense is dangerous and dynamic, but the Rams have done a very good job of limiting that. I see this being a war of a game where efficiency, execution is what's going to tip the scales, and that always leans over to the Rams. The splash is more Seattle. The substance is always McVay with his scheming things open. Of course, Seattle could change that, but to change that, Seattle has to, change that. They have to bring in more of the boot game, more of the West Coast offense stuff from their older days that move the quarterback, move the pocket, and protect that offensive line. Because if they continue going down the road they're on, it's not going to be successful. There is a lot of work that needs to be done in Seattle, despite the fact that there's a trio of stars on that offense. The look of the game at this point is still a bit murky. It looks like McVay is going to keep his information under his hat up until almost kickoff on this one. We don't know if we got Whitworth, Kaiser, and Goff. And not confirming Goff is one of the few things that makes me think we may see Wolford, at least to some degree, because Seattle doesn't truly need to prepare for Goff. They already have played him plenty of times and they know what they do versus him. The prep for him is very limited. The prep for Wolford is much more interesting. So that needs to have time put into it. Even if you do a half-week prep on Goff, you're ready. But a half-week prep on Wolford, that might still leave some gaps. Really interested to see how this one turns out. It's one of the games I'm most excited for the weekend. I love defense. I know. Sorry, fantasy football people. But I am really excited about this one. Good luck to both teams. Stay healthy. I love you guys. We need you. Stay strong, and I'll see you on the other side.